Have you ever thought your refrigerator might be lying to you? Seriously, think about it. That cool, buzzing box in your kitchen. It promises safety. It feels like a shield, as if everything that enters it gets frozen in time, protected, preserved. Like nothing bad can happen behind that door of frosty light. But what if I told you that this trusted friend sometimes betrays you? That some of the foods you lovingly tuck into your fridge could turn against you, not just going bad or losing flavor, but actually becoming dangerous? What if, without even knowing it, you were creating the perfect conditions for something harmful to grow? Slowly, invisibly, every single day. Let's go on a journey through your kitchen. We're not just looking at what you eat, we're looking at how you treat your food. Because your habits could be either boosting your health or quietly sabotaging it. Let's begin with something so basic, so common, you probably never questioned it: tomatoes. Most of us, after a grocery run, toss tomatoes into the fridge without a second thought. But tomatoes are warm weather fruits. They hate the cold. The moment you chill them, their texture changes. That firm, juicy bite, gone. You get something mealy, almost sandy. But the real damage is inside. The cold disrupts the natural enzymes that produce lycopene, the powerful antioxidant that gives tomatoes their red color and helps your body fight off cancer cells. Refrigerating tomatoes isn't just a flavor crime. It's a health downgrade. Now move your eyes to the counter. See those onions? Maybe you've got one half chopped and bagged in the fridge. Here's the problem. Onions absorb moisture quickly in cold, humid conditions. That moisture becomes a breeding ground for bacteria and mold, some of which can produce aflatoxins, nasty compounds that have been linked to liver cancer in long-term exposure. Even worse, those changes aren't always visible or smellable. So that onion you use for dinner might be more fungus than food. And while we're in root vegetable territory, let's talk about potatoes. Storing potatoes in the fridge. It sounds like a good idea. It prevents sprouting, right? True, but cold temperatures convert the potato's starch into sugars. And here's where it gets alarming. When those sugar-loaded potatoes are later fried, baked, or roasted, they form acrylamide, a chemical compound that scientists link to nerve damage and, yes, various types of cancer. That innocent-looking French fry, it's carrying more than salt and crunch. Another staple that ends up in the fridge far too often. Garlic. Garlic thrives in dry, dark places. But in the fridge, it begins to sprout early. Those little green shoots might look harmless, but they signal that the garlic's natural sulfur compounds, the very ones that give it cancer-fighting and immune-boosting powers, are breaking down. Not only that, but sprouted garlic is more prone to mold, which can produce mycotoxins. These toxins may slowly burden your liver and immune system, especially if consumed often over time. And speaking of misunderstood foods, let's talk about olive oil. This one shocks people. Olive oil is a healthy fat, right? Good for the heart, rich in antioxidants. But if you're storing it in the fridge thinking you're preserving it, you're actually accelerating its destruction. Cold tongue causes the oil to solidify, lose aroma, and go rancid more quickly than you think. Rancid oils form lipid peroxides, unstable molecules that can damage your DNA, promote inflammation, and contribute to degenerative diseases like, you guessed it, cancer. Let's step over to the fruit bowl and talk about bananas. They may seem like the least threatening food on the planet, but bananas and refrigerators are natural enemies. Cold tongue disrupt the enzymes that allow bananas to ripen properly. What you get is a sad, blackened skin on the outside and a mushy, nutrient-poor pulp on the inside. Not only is the taste ruined, but the banana's ability to deliver its potassium, magnesium, and resistant starch, all essential for metabolic balance, is compromised. And for people managing insulin levels or inflammation, that's a problem. What about something we've all done? Storing bread in the fridge. It sounds logical. Cold equals preserved. But the truth is, refrigeration speeds up starch retrogradation, a fancy term that means the bread goes stale much faster. It also encourages mold growth due to fridge moisture, and not all molds are harmless. Some strains, especially when left undetected, produce mycotoxins that can slowly suppress your immune system and damage your cells from the inside out. Now let's take a sharp turn into leftovers, specifically rice. Refrigerating rice sounds responsible, right? But if it isn't cooled quickly enough before entering the fridge, or isn't reheated thoroughly, it becomes a breeding ground for a bacteria called Bacillus cereus. This bacteria produces toxins that survive heat, and in some cases, these toxins have been linked not just to food poisoning, but to long-term intestinal inflammation, a known contributor to several chronic illnesses, including cancer. Now brace yourself, because this one hurts. Honey. Yes, even honey has a fridge horror story. Natural honey is incredibly stable at room temperature, but once you put it in the fridge, and then bring it out and do that repeatedly, it can start forming hydroxymethyl HMF, a compound that builds up when honey is heated and cooled over and over. In small amounts, it's harmless, but in large or repeated exposure, some studies have shown that HMF can damage DNA and trigger mutations in cells. And finally, apples. These beloved fruits emit ethylene gas, a natural compound that helps other produce ripen. But in a sealed, cold environment like the fridge, ethylene accelerates the spoilage of everything around it, especially leafy greens, herbs, and cruciferous veggies. This decay often leads to mold and degradation that, again, introduces toxins you might not even detect before eating. So, what do we do with all this? This isn't about fear. It's about clarity. It's about understanding that not all foods want to be chilled. Some thrive at room temperature, others need darkness, dryness, or air circulation. The fridge isn't a one-size-fits-all sanctuary. It's a tool, and like all tools, if misused, it can do more harm than good. What's worse is how normal these mistakes are. You're not weird, you're not negligent. You've been following habits passed down, mimicked, or assumed from what you saw others do. But the truth is this: food is chemistry, and how you store it changes it. Now here's the wild part. Once you make these small changes, moving the garlic to a basket, keeping the olive oil in a dark cabinet, letting tomatoes breathe on the counter, you start to notice more. The flavor is better, the smell is cleaner, the texture is real, and slowly, your body begins to thank you. You feel less bloated, your digestion improves, your immune system feels stronger, and though you may not see it, your cells are better protected from the kind of damage that builds quietly for years. Because cancer isn't something that happens overnight. It builds in silence through small, repeated triggers, many of which we control. So maybe this is your wake-up call, not to fear food but to respect it. Not to live in paranoia but to live with precision. The fridge is not your enemy, but it's not your savior either. It's just another tool in your kitchen. You are the one in control. So tonight, when you finish your meal and stand in front of the fridge door once again, just pause, look at what you're about to store. Ask yourself, does this food belong in the cold, or am I just following a habit? And if something in your gut says wait, trust it. You could be saving more than just flavor. You could be protecting your long-term health, one small choice at a time. If you've learned something new today, or realized you've been storing something the wrong way, tell us in the comments. What's one food you're moving out of your fridge starting now? And hey, don't forget to share this video with someone who might need to check their fridge too. Sometimes the best health advice is hiding right in your kitchen.